In this video, I'll be showing you how to cut out the 10 cute creatures paper snowflake patterns that you can find at papersnowflakeart.com. When you purchase these online, you'll get a PDF download. The cover is actually not in the download because it's the only thing that's in color. So I tried to design it so you're just printing in black and white, just what you need to cut out. So you'll get these. When you go to print them, do what you can to print at full size as opposed to fitting it to the page. That will just make sure that the pattern is a little bit bigger and it will help it be easier to cut. I'll show you the patterns that we'll be doing. Bear, pig, penguin, koala, bunny, dog, dinosaur, cat, chick, and a unicorn. For this pattern pack, you'll need scissors. You'll also need a 1/8 inch hole punch and a 1/16 inch hole punch. You'll see the difference in the sizes. If you don't have a 1/16 inch hole punch, you can use the 1/8 inch for most of what we're doing. You'll see as we go along. When you're ready to do one of the patterns, you'll follow the directions at the bottom, and I'll show you how to do them in real time. You'll first start by folding across this middle hamburger fold, as my kids say. And you'll see that there's numbers. 2 goes on top of 2. So that's going to fold up like that. I put a finger right down at the crease and then line it up perfectly. Press it nice and crisp. Then 3 will go on top of 3. So the same thing, it comes up and on top like that. They stack. And finally 4 on top of 4, they come together. So line your edges up, make sure you have a nice sharp point. Sometimes I use my fingernail to kind of get that point really crisp. When you finish, just press down nice and hard on the edges so that they're flat. They'll make them a little bit easier to cut. And then you'll see there's this shaded pattern on one side. You can trim that extra paper off the top. And then you'll cut around the edges, cut away the gray, leave the white, and that's all you have to do. With our bear paper snowflake pattern, we're going to use our 1/8 inch hand punch. We'll start with the eye. And then we'll also do a punch right in the middle of this ear so that you can get in there with your scissors and snip it out. So I use microtip scissors. They come to a fine point, and that helps me to snip these delicate areas. If you don't have microtip scissors, you just kind of have to work your way around. You also, if you have a larger hand punch, like the 1/4 inch, you could do that on the ear, and it would work out just fine. So the ear is the hardest part. Cutting through the 12 layers, it's just getting started that is the tricky part. And then once you kind of get in there, you can go all the way around. Then we'll do the nose And to finish off around the outside edge. Here's our bear. The bunny paper snowflake pattern uses the 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. Then you'll use your scissors. I like to do the nose first, then the whiskers. It's just a little bit easier to get in there. You can feel free to make your whiskers a little bit longer if you want to. And then do the mouth. And finish by going around the outside. This bunny pattern is connected to the fold both at the ear and down at the body. If you want your ear to be separate, you could kind of cut around here and not leave the fold. But I like to keep it attached at the fold because it makes it a little bit more structurally sound. Like if you're taping it somewhere or dangling it, they stay together nicely and don't flop around. The cat paper snowflake pattern uses the 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. And it has the tricky ear. So for this one, we're going to do the hand punch in a corner of the ear. Go in with our microtip scissors. Press down hard to get over to the other corner. Then we'll slide in again and just start cutting up toward the top. Make sure you get all, I missed some of my bottom paper there. So just once you get around the corner, it gets a little easier. And then cut back down toward your hole. So you might need to clean it up a little bit afterwards, but that will at least get the hole there for you to work with. And then you can go in and kind of tidy up your edges. Sometimes I flip it over. Looks a little better. Then we will do the nose. And the whiskers. Watch out for your eye if you make your whiskers a little bit longer. You can come kind of way out on this side one if you want longer cat whiskers. And then with the bottom one, you need to just watch for the mouth. Give it extra space just in case things move around. We'll do the mouth now. And cut around the edge. If you want to add anything onto your cat, you could add a little collar. You could put a heart. There's a little bit of room for a heart. You could put a little fish on there, but this is the good base for the cat. The chick paper snowflake pattern has a few details that I'm going to point out before we start cutting. One is this middle section of the beak that is very thin. Another is this jagged edge of the egg. Comes very close to the wing, and you want to make sure you don't cut through there. And then there's a couple little details up here that just help to shape the snowflake. So just be careful as you're cutting to not cut all the way through any of these areas. And when in doubt, just leave a little extra white space there. We'll start with the 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. And then do the beak. So it's when you're cutting up like this that you just want to make sure you don't cut all the way through. For the part of the egg, I go along the top. See where I'm leaving it there? And then I come along the bottom. And come back up to your cut. So see how I'm leaving a little bit of extra space there? That's so that I don't cut through all the way. So you'll still get your jagged edge, but you won't slice through the end. Now we'll do the little floof on top. So I kind of come around like the cheek area and let's get this paper out of the way. Then we can add this little detail in right there. And it's just a tiny little cut. It's just to kind of give it a little extra flair. One easy way to do the wings is to come down around like this. Again, you're watching that cut right there. When this paper is out of the way, you can snip this area out a little easier. And then the bottom. The Dinosaur uses both size hand punches, the 1/8 inch for the eye, the 1/16 inch down for the details on the foot. So let's start with the eye. And these are just the tiniest little holes here. If you don't have this tiny of a hand punch, you can just skip this part. Then we're going to take our scissors. First thing I'm going to start with is this teeny tiny line down by, it just shows you where the leg is. And I'll come up here. There's not a lot of space here, so just be careful to leave enough paper that you don't cut through. This, you cut in from the side. It's very thin. So I cut along this section, and then I don't even make it too wide. I just kind of come in next to it. It's just enough paper to show the roundness of the head and to give you access to cut this out right here. Then this side. This is a straight line across and around the top. The dog snowflake is pretty straightforward. You just need the 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. No tricky ears on this one, just details of the mouth and the nose. If you have a dog and it doesn't look exactly like this dog, and you want to play around with different ears, maybe ears that point up, you can try that out. You leave the face, and then you could sketch on the ears that would look more like your dog. You can make these as wavy as you'd like or as straight as you'd like. I like to come in from the bottom on this section. Watch your mouth area there. And then come up on the side. The koala uses that same 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. And we're also going to use it right up here to begin the ear. Right in the corner. Then we'll use our micro scissors and just begin to cut our way around just a little bit at a time until you can kind of get in there with more of your scissors. Just do tiny little cuts until you get all the way back around. And then if you want to, you can kind of tidy up the ear. We'll do the nose. The mouth. And there's just a couple little floofy fur pieces up here at the top. Sometimes it's easier to kind of get some paper out of the way first. Then you can come in and do the details. If the fur is too hard, you could just cut around the ear and around the top of the head, and it will still look like a koala. But I think it's kind of cute. This is one of my favorite snowflake patterns. I think he's got just a cute little face. I love the penguin snowflake pattern because it's such a great example of using positive and negative space to achieve the colors that you would normally see on a penguin. But that does make it pretty tricky to cut, mostly this very thin outer line here. So we'll go slowly and carefully and try to keep it all together. Start with your hole punch. It's the 1/8 inch hand punch for the eye. The beak will be next. The reason I do these first is because it would be a lot trickier to cut these after we cut this next part out. Then you're just going to hold it nice and tight so your paper doesn't slide around. Cut out this middle part. Now, when you get over here near your fold, depending on how you folded, this gray might come closer to the fold. Give it some extra space because if you cut through, your penguins will fall apart. So maybe don't go all the way up to the edge of the gray on the pattern. Same thing over here, depending on how you folded, it's very narrow. You don't want to cut all the way through. And think about your paper that's on the very inside of this fold. It's a little bit easier to cut. There's a little bit of a dip here, almost like a heart. So you come down and come up around like that. So we made sure this is connected. We didn't come through our fold here or here. Now we cut this thin line, so just pinch it tight in the middle because it likes to slide. Don't cut your fingers. And pivoting can be kind of tricky, so just go slow. Cut this edge out. Same thing, it likes to slide around because it's thin. And the feet. You can either leave this foot connected to this fold over here or come all the way around to separate it, which is what I tend to do. And then because it's so thin and the way that the design has this outer edge, this is a really good snowflake to flatten under a book after you've cut it out so that it retains its shape. The pig snowflake uses the 1/8 hand punch for the eye and also for the big snout. Also has that tricky ear again. So we're going to put a hand punch right up in the ear to help us get started on cutting that out. So you want to cut without over cutting. That's the tricky part, and that's the benefit of using the micro tip scissors. And if you hold your extra paper in place with your thumb, it can help it from sliding around. Now we'll do the snout. It's very thin. You're just taking out as little paper as possible to just show a line. The mouth. And around the outside. Watch up here. Be careful if you kind of had some extra snips up there on both sides. There it is. The unicorn snowflake uses the 1/8 inch hand punch for the ear and the eye, and the 1/16 inch hand punch for the nostril. So we'll start with that little one. When you cut the mouth, just be careful not to cut all the way through to the side of the neck. And get the mane. And I like to do this part over here just because it has a very small detailed section. Just to give a little dimension to the side of the face. This part's pretty thin, so watch fingers and also be careful that it doesn't slide. I love this snowflake because it's very pointy. Looks very snowflakey. This game of Guess That Snowflake should really be called Can You Identify an Upside Down Animal? That's right, we'll play anyway. Thank you for following along and cutting out these paper snowflakes with me. If you like this pattern pack, you can find the whole thing at papersnowflakeart.com. And please subscribe and share this video.